Well. It's that time again. A bit of wisdom for all you listeners out there, or at least not terrible conversation, at least. Time's been flying by. Actually, the year's been flying by, and we are like into the second half of the year already.
Well in, dude. Like nearly in August. Also,
Yeah,
hi.
and I hope I hope everyone has had an incredible few months, and the work that they've set out for themselves, at the beginning of the year, they're getting through it. We have the final bits of the year to get through, and we'd like to finish strong. So we have with us today again, once again, sorry, Dean and Prash.
Hello.
How are both of you two?
Good.
Yes, Dean, you did say hello before.
Just checking.
Good.
Hey, good.
Good.
Yeah, what's up, fellas?
Eyes good.
Good.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
not very convincing. Hey, I mean, both of you aren't very convincing with your
No, I'm
answers.
good.
When
I'm
I
good.
ask sometimes how
I'm
you guys
really
are.
good.
Okay.
I'm enjoying things.
I'd say on a macro level, I'm doing all right. Micro level, today was rough, but yeah, you get good days and bad days, as you mentioned. So
yeah, that's true.
So I started doing this thing recently, and because I was also feeling like that for a little while. Like the macro is good, but the micro is like still a little bit hard. So what I did was every day I have this like reminder on my phone that says the first thing I see it when I wake up in the morning when I look at my phone, and it says your happiness is only decided by you, right? And I see that every morning, right? And it reminds me every morning that when I start my day, nothing that happens in this day can impact the way I feel or should impact the way I feel, right? And if I'm unhappy, the only person that can change it is me.
that
Yep,
makes sense.
Right?
that's
Right?
that's
No,
true.
like
I
people
mean,
can come and disrupt your day and whatever, but if you sit back and you sit in awareness and you think about it, your happiness shouldn't be impacted by anybody else, right? And only you should be able to
yeah.
change that. So if there's an internal struggle that you're having, like um then you need to work it out. But if there's an external thing that's coming, you should still try to be happy within yourself. And Dean, I kid you not, it's literally like for the last month or so, it's literally made me like so much more like relaxed and calm and comfortable. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to try it, but it
I think
helps.
something similar, for example, is the 30 days challenge that I think I mentioned it to you guys last week, I think so, or the previous week. Yeah, so it's very similar to what Prash just mentioned. It's about positivity and continuously reminding yourself about the positive stuff in your life. And you kind of did, well, I'm still on it. There's a few days left on this journey. But like Prash says, you notice a lot of changes quite quickly. Well, not even changes. I think you just notice your moods, your emotions, and things shift into a better light. So yeah, that was 30-day challenge that I'm still on as well. And it might work, it might not work for some, but you just have to stick through it.
Try it and see what happens.
Work through it to the end. Yeah, exactly. And try it out for yourself. Well, I think today's cast might be a short one. I think the guys have been kind of dreading this one. Perhaps at the beginning of the year, we kind of discussed planning for the year and what we wanted to do for the next few months, or over the next few months even. And we would say we would try out this sort of planning and and trying to execute on that plan over the next few months. And today is the session where we kind of have a checkup, or like a midterm or mid-year review rather, on how successful you were, what worked, what didn't work, and things like that. So I think, people, to the big question, how did the plans go up till now?
Uh, uh, Look, I do think that in some areas of my planning, I was very what's the word? When you hope for too much. Um,
Ambitious.
Optimistic
Ambitious.
or
Ambitious
ambitious?
is the
Yeah,
word. I
yeah,
was not extremely ambitious. In some areas, I was
yeah,
extremely ambitious, right? But in some areas, I was moderately ambitious, and in some areas,
yeah.
but look, the plan I made was for the whole year, so there is some things that I can still do. But there's
Hmm.
some areas where I'm thinking, okay, it just needs a little bit of a longer term uh, uh, a view of things, you know?
Yeah.
Hmm. And for yourself, Dean?
Um, let's see. Everything I needed to do in January and February, I did. I was pretty happy with that. Like that went as according to plan. From March onwards, there were changes that I wanted to make. Little did I know that some of those changes were going to cause a lot of chaos and throw me out of balance on a multitude of levels. So merrily went into those changes in March, and by like end of March, everything was on its side. So I spent April and May trying to rectify the situation and just trying to salvage things. So yeah, I learned that I don't always, not always. I really didn't know what I was doing with some of those changes, and it was a bit humbling, but it was also nice, just to see like the knock-on effect of doing certain things and how they can impact you. So, like an example is one thing I changed was the way I exercised. So I was doing outdoor exercises in Jan and Feb, and from March onwards, I changed to indoor exercises, and I noticed that some of my anxiety was actually coming back. And having done sufficient introspection, I realized that because I was working from home and then training at home, I just wasn't leaving home and I needed to see the outside world, and that alleviated some of my anxiety. So when I started just training outside again, although the training program was less effective, because January and February was about building a base level of fitness and then moving into something more
Fitness.
aggressive. So going back to the base level of fitness training, which was outdoorsy, um, it didn't give me the physical results I wanted, but it definitely gave me the mental stability to sort of pick myself up again.
I think that's a good one that you mentioned. Hey, specifically the point around working in that same space as well as I guess working out. Plus, also, Dean, you spend your life in that space as well. Like you cook in that space and you rest in that space and you bring yourself down in that space as well. So too much of that same environment, you
It's not
mentioned
healthy.
the effects that it no that it had on you, and I think a lot of people, as well, during the pandemic, experienced the same. Even
Yeah.
even though you are partaking in physical activities, even though you do have some downtime, it's like it's almost as if you're within the confines of your own walls, and like you mentioned, your anxiety of not being a part of the world came to the
I
forefront
don't think it was
at
necessarily
that
not being a
point.
part of the world. It was just, I think there's a difference between isolation and being confined. And I was experiencing being confined, because when I was still training outdoors, I wasn't interacting with people. I was literally going to a nature reserve and I would do a trail run, and you don't interact with a soul. You're just there by yourself because it's so big and there's not that many people that go there. You generally don't interact with a lot of people. I think maybe if you go during the more popular times, you might, but for the most part, I'd be on the trail by myself. I wouldn't interact with anyone. So that was still a form of isolation, but it wasn't negatively impactful. It was calm. It was like a switch off. You're kind of meditating as you do it. Your brain kind of just focuses on the one thing, and that's just being in the space of nature. Whereas when I was training at home, I was following along a training guide and I was trying to concentrate on that, and my mind wasn't right at all. So just staying within the confines of my home 24/7. I would even get my groceries delivered. I was still getting my groceries delivered, because that was just more convenient. I just never left the house for a little while, and it was definitely affecting my anxiety levels. And I didn't realize that until I sat down and was like, well, why am I actually feeling this way? What changed? And the biggest change that I made was down to training and stuff. And then when I come April, started running again, a lot of that went away. kind of took care of itself. The anxiety, I mean. Still didn't really interact with people much, but I wasn't confined anymore.
So your mental space and your physical space are sort of linked. Like
Hmm.
you feel better when you train, but also when you're in a good mental space. And that mental space for you, I feel like you could probably train for 10 minutes before that, but walking in the park might actually uh, help you for 20 minutes, help you more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's actually quite interesting. I've never thought about it that way.
Look, I'm not saying it'll be like this for anybody, but if anyone's going through the same thing,
Yeah.
just look at whether you're feeling isolated or confined, and
Mm.
go from there. Because that is quite an important distinction.
Yeah, for sure. I think I think it's really interesting to hear that because like for me, training is just something that I need to do to
Yeah.
improve my physical form, right? I sort of separate the mental aspect, like um mentally, if I'm feeling a little bit like you were feeling, I'll go do
Yeah.
something that like mentally puts me in a frame, you know?
Hmm.
And like it's so interesting how yours is linked to the two, you know? But also I think that being whole cooped up thing does have an impact.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice to know.
Yeah, I don't think like training was also it shouldn't be a stressful thing. You shouldn't dread doing it. And
Oh yeah, for
some of
sure.
the exercises I was like, I really don't want to do this, but I was forcing myself to do it. It was just
Yeah,
like pushing myself, and I was like, I'm gonna soldier through this thing like a
yeah.
steam train. And by the end of the march, the steam train was on its side. So I was like, okay. We need to
Uh,
dial it back.
but I wanted to ask, do you have like targets? Do you set yourself targets and then try to meet them? This week I did 5 minutes. Next week I want to do six, right? Or is it more of a feeling thing for you?
No, there were targets.
Okay,
So the January and February was just knocking time off the trail run, which I did. Right, so I was bringing that
okay,
down every week by a couple of minutes, to the point where I couldn't do it by a couple of minutes anymore. I was just doing it by like 20 seconds here every now and then.
okay.
But I was making progress. And then when I moved, so I had established a base level of fitness there,
Mm.
and it was mostly on a cardiovascular level. And then Insanity, we've done it a bunch of times. The
Yeah,
training program, I mean, not going insane.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Well,
the
it is
train the
insane. So,
training program. Yeah, I think I'm not all there anyway. But the train the training program Insanity, you have a tracker, right? The fit tests.
mm,
So you do that every 2 weeks. And yeah, that was the whole thing was just to increase my fitness over that. So by the third fit test, I definitely improved, like across the board. My results were better. Um, so I'd seen an improvement there. I just mentally was in a very happy space. So I made the call to not then continue the program because, like, mentally, I'm just not happy enough.
yeah.
Physically, I was doing great. So I was looking better as well. But I
Mm.
just mentally, it wasn't worth it.
That's really interesting to know because like I don't think I think I also have that same thing with you. Like doing Insanity for me just felt too. It felt so forced.
Intense.
No, it wasn't necessarily the intensity that was a problem. It was just that
Yeah,
I didn't enjoy it.
yeah. It felt so
Like,
forced.
we've played soccer together. Like, that can be super intense, but you
Yeah,
enjoy it.
yeah.
And
But
the
like,
level of intensity where you push
yeah,
yourself there is
yeah,
extremely high, but
yeah.
you know
But like you're
you
saying, it's
enjoy
that
that.
environment thing, right?
It's the environment, but also I
Yeah.
just realized I don't really enjoy the exercise as much.
Mm.
There's different
Yeah, I was
exercises
about to
like this. You
say,
can do exercises you
like,
like.
what would you enjoy doing then?
um, I think something that would achieve the
Would
same
you
effect.
switch
Yeah,
to
like I'd
would you
switch to
switch
probably.
to joining
Yeah,
a
that's
gym,
exactly where I need to go.
or maybe even just like with like a very small group of people who do yoga or Pilates, because that class is like very small.
Yeah. No. I
I
think
know because I
the
go to
next
both.
thing I want to try at some point is gym. I just need to sort of stabilize from a work point of view because work's quite hectic at the moment. So, like working late a lot lately. So
Mm.
once things kind of calm down a little bit, then I'll sort of look at joining a gym when I understand what my free time is going to be looking like. So yeah, I think gym is next step. See how that goes, because that's a
Yeah.
much bigger space. I do enjoy there's a lot of exercises I do enjoy. There's plenty of exercises I don't, but there's a lot of gym exercises that I do like. I mean, we like lifting stuff up. That's fun. So we could do that.
Do you even lift, bro?
Yeah. So and I like leg day, so that's cool too. So
Yeah. No, that's I think that's probably the best way to do it. Because I also, when I started, I bought a cycle during COVID, right, for my house.
yeah.
And like after for the first couple of days, I was like, oh, it's cool. I can, do some cardio. After like a week, I was like, I hate cycling. I hate it.
Exactly.
Cycling is so boring. I don't know how people like race. Like, okay, I used to say the same thing about F1, but
So,
um,
yeah.
uh, like I don't even I don't like it. But it forms such an integral part of my training program, right? So what I
Yeah.
found that really I enjoy is because when I'm training, I track my heart rate quite a lot, right? I like tracking
Mm-hmm.
things. For me, it makes it fun, right? And when it's not tracking well, I get really annoyed with myself. But when I'm
Mm-hmm.
training in between sets, I'll get on my cycle and just hit it hard for 2 minutes, right? And that way I get my heart rate up, right? And then I keep it there between sets. Because I just train at home now because I find it so much easier. Straight after work, I can literally go to another room, train, and then when I'm done, I go shower. To be honest with you, if I move places, I want a personal gym in my house because it just makes so much sense to have it, right? But like
Yeah, like if
doing
I ever
that,
have my own
yeah,
place, like a big place, I'd also want the same thing.
100%, right? And making that change made it so much better for me, and it allows me to reach my targets better because with vitality and discovery, it's all about like heart rate and time and
Yeah.
right?
All that good
Because I think
stuff.
code you also train at home, right? Um,
For the
yeah,
most part, yeah.
and it's hard to get like all the exercises in. But I taught myself that with dumbbells alone, you can just pretty much do almost anything that you want.
Yeah,
Um,
true.
but it's so yeah,
I
it's so
think.
interesting how different like Dean and I are, because I can train in a confined space, right? And for me, it's all about targets and hitting the consistency. But uh, I suppose the mental space, I've created a nice mental space for myself because I don't train in the same place that I work.
Okay.
So I created that
I think
separation.
if I can describe my environment, I think we all three are quite different
Yeah.
as well. Um, but actually, now that you mention it, Coach, I think maybe we both are similar. I mean, I train in the same space as where I sit down
Yeah.
to work, even. But for me, like you mentioned, it's goal tracking as well. It's like I need to hit the specific targets of heart rate and
Mm-hmm.
whatever intensity of workout. So for me, I didn't really mind just being confined um, in this particular space. I knew what I was doing was for a particular
Mm-hmm.
reason, and I had that mindset, that goal,
Yeah.
um, and that's how I hit it. I think the monotony of the biking
Yeah.
exercise. What it reminded me of was I used to do the same at gym, and I used to like really dislike that
Mm.
as well. But I think I'm not sure if you'll know the fish game on the rowing
Yep, know
machine.
it well.
Yeah. So like when I learned about the fish game on like some of these equipment at gym, for example, then it kind of added an extra flavor to this whole thing.
Yeah.
Um, so it just reduced the monotony. So what do you do now? I guess so. You don't do long cycles now. You just do quick bursts.
Yeah. So I found that
Is
I
that what you
found
do
that
now?
to keep my heart rate up, right? You do
Mm,
quick burst, high intensity cardio between your
mm,
sets. Because okay, so what
sure.
I do first is I always cycle in the beginning for a decent period of time, not to get my heart rate up, but to warm my muscles up, right? And obviously you
Sure.
don't really just want to shock your body. So I do that for like 10 minutes, right? While I basically watch something on YouTube the entire time I'm training, whether it'll be like some
Mm-hmm.
football video or something like that, just stuff, right? Where
Mm.
I love people talking live. So there's radio stations on YouTube, and I'll just listen to that. And there's always like comment. People are always funny on radios, right? So I'll have that on, and then once I've done some like a decent period of time on the cycle, just so that I can feel a little bit warmed up, then I'll do a superset of two exercises, and then I'll get back on my cycle. I'll put it on like a 6 level setting or whatever, which is moderately difficult, and then I will cycle literally at a consistent pace, but not as hard as I can because I don't want to break myself, but at a consistent, strong pace. So like 75%, 65%. And I find
Mm.
that boosts your heart rate, right? And then when you get off, and then you do your next, and when I say I superset, I do 4 sets of each, and I superset it with something else. So, for example, I'll do push-ups and then dumbbell curls, right? And then I'll get back on the cycle, and I'll do 2 minutes, and then I'll come back and I'll do 4 sets, supersetted of like squats with um, shrugs, for example, right? And I find that while I'm doing the weight section, my heart rate stays continuously high because obviously you're still lifting weight. But doing that 2 minute cardio burst between all the sets, I do about 8 sets of exercises, right? And between all of them, it literally keeps your heart rate up at a specific pace the entire time. And that way, obviously, it's points related, but that way you also keep your heart rate at a consistent level so it doesn't go up and down and up and down. And then you like, because everything for us, I think, is points based at this point in time. But I find that
It's
yeah,
gamified.
it's gamified, but I also feel like it works better because I'm not doing the monotony of cycling, right? But I'm also getting a little break between sets, um, for like the target muscle groups. Um, but
Yeah,
obviously you have
makes
to
sense.
develop that over time because if you start with the cycling and the weights within the first week, because you're squatting and I do squats, deadlifts, lunges. By the time you finished after the first week, your legs are just going to be crashed, right? They'll be completely
Mm.
crushed. But at first,
Mm.
I started off without the cycle, and then when I got into the cycle, I found it was such a smooth process for me because the cycle is in the same place that I train, right? So it's like put the weights down, go cycle, come back, pick the weights up. And I only learned that from one of our other friends who's a personal trainer. And he did that because he wanted me to keep my heart rate up the whole time. And I learned that it works so well because even if you are really fit, right, you're not taking a 2 minute break between sets. And that's what you do at the gym, right? At the gym, you go find some other weights, you put them on the bar. That all of that reduces your heart rate. And I know we shouldn't be breaking ourselves at the gym, but what I'm doing is with dumbbells. So technically, it's not so heavy that you can't manage it. And
Yeah.
I found that works for me. But what I didn't think about is the mental state while you're training, and that's what Dean was saying. So for me, I don't know if this app is the same for you, Code, but I think like Dean have to be in a good mental space to want to train. I can't just force it. And if I'm in a bad mental space, then I do something first to get into that mental space, and then I train.
So for me, like so my concept of no 0 days kicks in all the time.
Yeah,
Um, so it's over time I've built this thing, right? If I don't train, like I've had a bad day.
yeah,
It's that's the type of I've been training my body now for over 11, 12
yeah.
years consistently. And for me now, if I miss a day, something's off.
Okay.
So I've built that consistency within myself and discipline within
Mm.
myself that I need to train every day. So it's not based on an emotional thing for me. If my body feels tired, then I won't train. That's fatigue, and I'm not gonna push my body beyond a particular limit. But I train because I need to do it, and it does actually bring some levels of joy to me. Like when you like how they always say, right? When you're stressed or when you're want to relax your mind or things
Yeah,
like that, you go work out, right? Because no matter what that workout is, just go work out, because it does release some
yeah.
endorphins to make you relax and calm down and things like that. So that's one of the other reasons why I kind of do it as well. So
But you've created a habit out of it, right?
that's how it is for me. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was always like I've always created that habit. Like it's always toward the end of my day, at a particular time, and I don't miss that time. Yeah, I mean, regardless of what state I'm in. I mean, like you, I put music on. Perhaps it's the most common thing amongst people is good music, and just vibe to the music whilst you kind of do your workouts. Puts you in that frame of mind as well.
Mm.
Okay, just moving moving to the next question that I kind of had here, and I guess some of you have answered this. I think some of you have answered, I guess, this particular one. What worked for you and what didn't work for you? So, in terms of your planning and execution, like whatever plans you've made, what do you think worked for you and what didn't work for you in that whole process?
Well, what didn't work for me was I didn't understand the impact of certain changes. What worked for me was routines. Routines are a lifesaver. It is the golden ticket to any progress, I think. So establish your routines. That works very, very well. And things that didn't work is just not or underestimating, or even not even considering how certain things may impact you. I like to think of myself as someone that takes a lot of consideration into the steps that he takes, but in this case, I got it very wrong because I didn't I didn't foresee the impact of certain changes.
So because so let's just say, I mean, you mentioned you didn't foresee those. It's not like you could have foreseen them to begin with, right? I mean, remember when you're taking on new things, you won't know all the outcomes at the beginning.
No, but what I could have done was looked at the impact of the exercises beyond the physical. So, like, how do these exercises impact my mental state? And I didn't take that into consideration. And like Good was talking about, when you're not in the mood to do something, like I wasn't in the mood a lot of the time to do the training, like the Insanity program, but I pushed through it. And I thought, just fight through this because it'll be worth it in the end. Physically, it was absolutely worth it. I was starting to see abs again. I was like, geez, where did these come from? But
really
behind all the cheesecake.
I know, like it was
really
the cheesecake curtain was strong, but it was getting thinner and thinner, and I could see them. But it's just like I'm feeling miserable. Whereas the running, I could be having the worst day, like everything's going wrong, everything's on fire. But when I clocked off and I was going from around, I looked forward to it. I really did. I looked forward to that exercise. I looked forward to my feet hitting the ground and just like, making time. So I just never considered the impact on my mental state of those exercises. And that was very bad.
But I think, isn't that the important thing, is to like do things that improve your life, but do them in the way that you like them.
Exactly. If you can find a way, if you can find solutions that you enjoy, then you're in that happy medium. I mean, not every single solution you're going to enjoy, right? Sometimes you just have to get your head down and get it done. But I mean, you do have to look at how that affects everything else, though. So by all means, push through things, fight through the barriers, break those barriers, but think about the impact, because there's more than one way to break a barrier, right? There's more than one way to get abs. So not that I was trying to get abs. It was just nice to see them again. It's like, hey, you look familiar from my teenage years.
You had abs in your teenage years?
I did, but I was generally scrawled in my teenage years. There was, there wasn't much fat on me.
Scrawl
very
means
high,
thin
very
for
high
some
metabolism.
people who don't understand.
But anyway, my point was that there's more than one way to do something. So consider the impact of what you're trying to push through, and if there's a less abrasive, disruptive manner to do so, then maybe look at doing it that way.
But like the thing is that we've chosen to do these things, right?
Yeah.
So
definitely.
these are chosen things. So for me, like I think when you say talking about breaking barriers and stuff, it's the things that you don't like doing, like from the beginning, and you also
pushing
didn't choose
through
them,
and exercising at 6 o'clock when you really not in the mood to do these exercises.
Right, but it's also the things that you have to push through are the things that you didn't really choose to do, but you have to do, right? But the things that we've chosen to do, ideally, we should try to find the best and most fun way to do them. And if you're finding, like Dean, where you don't find the best and fun way to do them, then sit and think about what part of it is impacting your non-enjoyment of the thing that you've chosen to do. Like, look at what Dean did. He's struggling, and then he sat down and he thought about it, and he's like, okay, how many people struggle with things for years? Dean, you figured it out after 2 months. That's actually quite impressive, right? And you get to this point where you realized it very quickly where the problem was, and then you could adjust. 2 months it seems like a long time for a year's plan or whatever. But some people some people just keep pushing through insanity for like 10 years until they figure it out.
Oh, it's nice of you to put it that way. Doesn't always feel that nice, but
I know,
fair enough.
obviously, because you've had this plan, right? And you've set it out and you're like, I need to meet this target and whatever and whatever. But I mean, figuring out quickly that it's a mental state thing is not, it's not that easy.
I think also there's you mentioned that to find a way of doing things that are enjoyable, but if the tasks or the particular goals that you have are, let's just say, you have to go through a maze of thorns and poison ivy, for example. I think if I look at my own list, some of the things that I had to do were quite uncomfortable, and were always going to be so. I looked at them from the beginning and I was like, okay, they were going to be hard. They're not going to be something I was going to enjoy, but in order to get to that end point, I had to go through, the thorny bushes or the thorny maze and things like that. So some tasks or some goals are going to present themselves as difficulties. But if at the end of the day, your end goal is worth getting and it is worth achieving, then you do have to navigate your way through that path.
100%. But if I can put it a different way, like if you know you're going to go through something that's a challenge, so if you know there's a thorny bush ahead, you don't need to run through the thorny bush naked. Which is like what I was doing. It was stupidity, really. There's other ways of navigating the bush.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. 100%.
It was just bad choice on my part. Like, really. It was just,
no, but I mean, also, it's not really a bad choice. You didn't really know until you figured it out, right?
Yeah. That's true as well.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we did have fun doing Insanity when we used to do it together. And I think, to be honest with you, if we were doing it together, I think it's something that some things can be done together and some things can be done alone. Like, if we were doing it together, I think we'd have a lot of fun doing it together because we'd both look at each other and be like, oh my God, I think I'm more dead than you are,
Yeah.
And I think then you'd have more fun because you have someone to do it with. And maybe that's something. But I do kind of agree with you. There should be a way of doing the things that you've specifically chosen to do in a way that you enjoy them the most.
Yeah. Or in a way that's, least harmful to you. So there's always going to be, stuff that's challenged, stuff that's going to be difficult. And, the thorny bush is never going to not be there. There's always going to be difficult conversations that you have to have. And there's always going to be work that you have to do on yourself that's not going to be pleasant. But there's, within that difficult thing, there's making it super, super difficult and wildly uncomfortable, or making it difficult but manageable, and you at least enjoy the process.
Yeah, but difficulty doesn't mean it's uncomfortable. You know what I'm saying?
Agreed.
You can enjoy the difficulty.
Yeah.
Yes, if that's, I guess, if you remember, I think we discussed this a long time ago in perhaps one of our podcasts, is that you treat those difficulties as like
friends.
What's the word am I doing? Yeah. Right, and you treat them differently, as opposed to seeing them negatively.
Yeah.
The way I try to think about it is that, when I'm doing things that are really fun for me, right? Like playing games or whatever it is, even though the game is hard, right? I relish the challenge and then I enjoy it. And for me, that's what I should liken the things that I want to do. Even if it's hard and there's the thorny bush ahead, I should relish the challenge because it's something that I've chosen for myself, right? And maybe I'm also picking easy things for myself. Not easy things, but things that I only like, and maybe not facing the things that I maybe should be doing. But then again, I don't know if there's something that I should be doing, inverted commas, versus only the things that I like.
That's a tough question to answer because what do you define as what you should be doing? Because, I mean, lots of people will give opinions on what should be done, but I mean, what do they know really? Everybody's different.
That's true.
Like each person is different. Like no one can tell you what you should do.
Yeah.
They can tell you what they did that worked for them, but what you should do is very specific to you.
Yeah. You pick it, right?
I mean, which is why we kind of set a goal at the beginning of the year, right? What is right for us to
Yeah.
do over the next few months, and achievable, and attack that sort of thing. Not what's good for someone else or what someone else's opinion on my life should be, for example.
Yeah. I mean, just because something was good for you in the past doesn't mean it's good for you now. Like,
that's
I
true.
chose to do the Insanity program because it was good for me in the past. I did enjoy it. Did not think it would be a problem. And because of that lack of consideration of how it would impact me in my current state, I, toppled everything over.
Yeah.
I mean, I looked good while toppling, but, it's not the point.
There's side effects.
So what?
Yeah.
Many. So what worked for you and what didn't work for you?
What didn't work for me was not looking at the list of things that I set out for myself to do. That didn't work in my favor.
Sorry.
Right?
Okay.
But what I did do, I have this habit of like continuously reevaluating where I am. I don't know why, but it's a habit that I have.
It's a good habit.
You'd say that, but when you're not happy where you keep reevaluating where you are, it's kind of a downer, right? So
Okay, fair enough. When you put it that way.
right. So, like, okay, because remember at the beginning of the year, I was saying that I've never really done this before. So I've never really made this list of things that I want to do throughout the year. So having this long ass list, because I made quite a lot of points that are things that I wanted to do, and some of them are actually continuous things, but and not specific targets. But as I go through them, I realize that I am doing quite a lot of them, right? Maybe not perfectly, but I am doing quite a lot of them. And I think it's also because, when you put it out there and say, these are the things that I want to do, in the back of your mind, you sort of gravitate towards those things. And I made a list that was pretty long. I mean, these were just the topics, right? Physical fitness. I called one the table, which is basically my cooking and eating and stuff. Hobbies, study, meditation, work, house, car, spiritual, love, side business, right? Investing, side items, which is just other stuff. Side items is one of our items is our podcast on side items, right? And one of the items was I want to do a podcast every month, and we've literally done that so far, right? And I said I wanted to do a video cast, and we did that already as well, right? And
That's
then
true.
the last one was fun. I think of all of them, the only thing I haven't touched was fun. And fun was basically just like game twice a month or something, on a Friday or whatever, because we played a lot of Dota before. So I assumed that I would continuously play Dota throughout the year, but like twice a month on a Friday or something. That completely went out the window because we stopped playing altogether. But the rest of the stuff, I've basically.
That might come back anyway. Well, sorry to interrupt you.
Anyway. Are you making a declaration here?
We'll take.
Do we know if there's going to be a compendium? I feel like we're sidetracking here, but it's worth the discussion.
I don't know if it doesn't sound compendium based though. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, Lord.
Sorry, Guj, I interrupted.
No, but it's fine. No, it's fine.
Please.
It's fine. So, like physical fitness, I can go into some of them because obviously some of them, like physical fitness, like we were talking about, I want to reach a certain weight. There's certain things I want to do. Like I talked about kickboxing and stuff like that. I want to do all those things, right? Table.
Yeah.
The first thing I have on my list of table is, and it's not a goal. It's literally I love everything I make to eat, right? And
we also love everything.
Yeah, damn right. Damn.
No, you talk about one thing. You haven't eaten all the other things I make. Okay, right?
Oh, okay.
Those are sometimes horrific. But I tried. I people don't get sick. Okay, put it that way. Right? So,
Kav doesn't get sick.
But the thing is, I try to follow that. Everything I make, I want to enjoy eating, and that for me it's not a goal as such, but it's something that I want to keep. Now, obviously, I'm not going to tell you the exact things that I wanted to do because, obviously, the last one on the list was I make food that people love to eat, and I think there you guys are pretty much happy with, right?
You've been very spoiled.
I wrote every day feels like a food adventure, right? That's not the case, right? Because some days it's literally like boring stuff. But I have like I want to eat 6 days a week. I want to eat as clean as I possibly can. And in the last month, that's what I'm trying to do. I mean, obviously go out on weekend and stuff. But as much as I can, I try to eat as clean as possible. Hobbies, like I like to do pizza things, and there's some stuff that I want to learn. Obviously, one of them's completely fallen off because I started trying to learn French, and then that went out the window. Because I just didn't have time. No, look, my list is quite extensive, and I think that if you looked at the list,
No, I can
you'd
imagine, dude.
probably
I can
not be able to
imagine.
complete all the things in here because I wrote some of the books that I wanted to read, some of the courses that I want to study. Um, One of the important things for me at the beginning of the year was meditation, right? And I said that I just basically said I want to do 10 minutes of meditation every morning before the end of Jan. And then I stepped that up every month and then up until November, which is 30 minutes. And I didn't realize it, but in the last month or two, I've been meditating for at least 20 minutes a day, right? And
Nice.
I didn't remember that this list was there, right? And like, okay, work, I have obviously targets at work. House, look, buying a house isn't the easiest thing, but yeah. Cars, like, I wanted to get a new car, but obviously with petrol prices and COVID and not having to drive that often, it's not really feasible. Um, Spirituality,
Also, the car that you want is not
yeah,
available.
apparently
It's a massive,
yeah,
there's a
it's not even
massive 3-year
it's
waiting
not even
list.
available in South Africa at this. Well, it's available, but like it's a scarce commodity.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then spirituality, it's about also reading some books and things like that. Love, I think I'll stay away from at this point. And then things like side businesses and stuff. I really haven't gotten them off the ground, but there's things that I want to do, and obviously, if I can do some of them throughout the year, then it'll be great. And then investing and things like that. I'm learning about investments, and I do invest, but I'm learning more about the investments that I want to do. And then
Mm.
side items is mainly targeted at the podcast. So that was my whole list of things to do. And in that whole list, I left out friends, right? Completely. But then again, I've I'm I've been very comfortable with my group of friends that I have for a long time now, and I don't think that's really going to change. So maybe it's not something that I wanted to leave on my list.
When you
Um,
say like friends as a list item, was that increase or just maintain?
I didn't have it on my list. That's the thing. But for me, maintenance is the key thing, right? You want
Yeah.
to maintain your friendships, and it's
Yeah,
not
but I
about
mean,
saying I have this.
we'll
Yeah,
show up whether you want us to or not. So
right.
like,
Exactly. But
can't
it's
get rid of us.
it's still important to maintain those friendships, and
Yeah, Dean, it's a lot more than that, hey?
but
It's the
also
pizza.
I don't know if you noticed that like every couple of days or something, I'll message in groups and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I found that I only do that when I'm in a good mood, right? But it's also a way for me to like check in with people. And I didn't realize I was doing that, but it's something that I'd obviously want to do if I remember to put it on my list. So, but all of this has stemmed from having the right mentality. And I think it comes back to what you were saying with your training. When you have the right mentality, all of your goals and all of the things that you want to do in life sort of align with that.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important that when you have that right mentality, that you'll notice that you'll look back on the goals that you set and you'll be like, okay, I did quite a lot of these because your mentality, when you pick your goals, right? And this is so important that I only realize now. When you pick your goals, the goals that you are picking is the life that you want to have, right? And when you
Yeah.
have the right mentality, the alignment of the life that you want to have sort of just falls into place because you're following the things that you want to do and enjoy doing, right? And those are
Yeah.
the things that you would have put on your list of things anyway. So the main thing, which I'm coming back to again, is the mentality thing is so important to have. I think when it comes to goal setting and orientation, and even when you're setting your goals yourself, you should be in a good space because it allows you to pick the things that you imagine that you want.
I think that's excuse me. I think that's critical points that you kind of mentioned, right? It's focusing on where you want to go, and having those constant reminders that that's where you want to go and that's how you want to build your
Yeah.
life, and taking those steps to getting there. Now the list, like you mentioned, is a structured pathway or structured road. I don't know if you want to call it whatever you want to call it, but just incremental steps to get there. And
Yeah.
you're trying to build your ideal life, and when you make this list or for yourself for the next month, or if you want to plan for longer, for the next 6 months, it's exactly like Prash says. You're trying to build your life around what you want it to be, and this list is just a small portion of that to get you to go in that direction.
Yeah.
I also found this cool tool that you can use. It's called Coggle. I don't know if you guys have heard of it.
Nope.
It's a mind mapping tool that's free online, right?
Mhm.
And you obviously register, and then whenever you log in again, it remembers all the stuff that you've done. But it's a cool mind
Nice.
mapping tool that you can use. And what I did was I created my vision board on that thing, right?
Ooh.
So you can put pictures on it and you can write paragraphs and all of this stuff. And I find it so much better than actually creating a physical one. Okay, look, we live a lot online. Personally, I'm in front of a computer most of the time. So having my mind, and I never close the tab. So whenever I'm scrolling through my tabs and I see it, I look at my vision board again and I'm like, oh, it's here, right? And then sometimes I tweak it or I add to it. But I finished a second part of my vision board this in the last 2 months or so. And I was actually so satisfied that I did it, even though I haven't really like met all the targets or whatever it is. But
Yeah.
I found that cool tool and I was like, I should tell everybody about this because it's free. You can basically create massive mind maps with as many arms as you want, and this thing grows in size. So it is not limited to like A3 or A4. It just keeps growing, right? And it's really cool. I think you should check it out. Coggle.
Coggle. Okay.
Will
Thank
do.
you.
Free,
Thank
free.
you.
I'm telling you guys about free online stuff. That's when we know. Come on.
Okay. Well, I mean, so we've just gone through what worked, what didn't work. What would you change to get things to work?
No, I've made the changes. The changes I made is to be more mindful of the decision. Like anything new, I need to obviously understand how that's going to impact everything else. It's not to say don't try new things. It's more just a case of the new thing I'm actually implementing is on anything new. How does it impact the rest of my life and my mindset? And then based on that, I choose to implement or find something else that'll achieve the same result. Yeah.
Prash, what would you change?
Make sure I look at my list more.
Yeah. Keep the reminding yourself going.
I remember Dean has this. I think, do you still have that, Dean? That sticky note stuff that you put on your door as reminder for things that you need to get done.
Yeah, I do my I love my sticky notes. Can't live without them.
On your door? You mean like on your front door?
Oh no, I stick them.
His front door.
It's actually on the guest bedroom. There's stuff there, but also like I put it on. I put stuff on the fridge if it's really urgent because I know I'm going to go to the fridge at some point, multiple times that day. So like really urgent stuff goes on the fridge. Other stuff goes on the side of my monitor, so the monitor is very decorated with
I've
sticky
seen
notes.
your laptop.
So, yeah, like the daily stuff for work will go on the side panel of the laptop. So that's right in front of me, and I'll literally cross stuff off so it's literally to the right and the left of the trackpad. I'll stick stuff there. So that's work specific, but life specific stuff will go on the monitor and then on the fridge if it's like super urgent.
It's a nice reminding system.
Yeah, because I can be a little forgetful sometimes of like really important stuff that's completely uninteresting. So, you know.
Oh, for sure, dude. I use I've taken to this habit that I think my parents use. My dad uses this reminder on his phone. Like he just sets reminders. But I've taken to putting calendar appointments on my phone to remind me.
That's a good habit.
No, not when you just continuously have reminders going off like 50 times a day.
It can be excessive.
Yeah, so you have to learn how to like either cross things off quickly or control them. But it's nice. I think that post-it note thing is a nice idea.
I just wrote that down again now. I'm gonna refresh my post-its.
Post-its are life, man.
Reminders.
Those things are fantastic.
I am gonna do that more wholeheartedly this time.
You don't have to buy post-its. You can just buy sticky notes, like any kind of sticky note, really. We're not brand specific here.
Yeah.
Brand agnostic. But...
I mean, everyone knows what a post-it is, which is why I mentioned sticky note. Now, on the particular goals or tasks that you didn't follow through on, how would you make sure that you you will follow through on them, in future.
Talks back to the earlier point of just being more mindful of those changes. So the goal doesn't have to move, and I don't want to move those. I still want to achieve those things. It's just the manner in which I go about them needs to be more harmonious with my personality type and my mind, my headspace. So just again, it's mindfulness of what I'm doing and how it impacts everything else.
And yourself, Ash?
Once again, I think making sure I look at my list more often. But also, I think what I would say is in my list, I've given myself a lot of things to do, right? Um, like I think you guys were saying you have like a list of a couple of things. I've given myself a list of a lot of things to do. So I don't really kick myself when I haven't completed everything. But if I look at the list again and say, oh, you know what, this is something that I actually really wanted to do and I haven't started it yet, then I need to actively keep it in my mind. Like I think Dean is saying, you need to be mindful of the stuff that you like really wanted to do. But yeah, I would also think it needs to form some part of your day, you know. Um, so if you say, for example, want to learn a new language this year, um, you need to set aside time every day to do that. Not every day, or a couple days a week, or something like that, or even once a week if you go to a class. But you need to set it as part of your day slash week slash couple days, because then you also don't miss it. Because like me, if
Build
you've
it
given
into a
yourself,
routine.
yeah, exactly. And if you
Yeah.
if you create 50 things for you to do, and obviously you can't fit some during your day, something's gonna fall away.
Mm.
And I think that's also a key thing. Like you kind of have to give yourself the leeway to understand that I've only got so many hours in a day, and some of them are attributed to sleep and work and eating. And then the rest of the time that I have, how can I fill those hours with the things that I want to do? And then you start thinking about what's actually important on your list to do and what stuff you can like leave aside.
Yeah.
Um, and then you can say, okay, I'm not too upset about the fact that I didn't do this because I filled my day by doing as many things as I wanted to do.
Yeah.
That's very important, I guess. It's like you mentioned, filling your day with the things that you want to do or the important things, and not just filling it with random fluff because you had the time to do it. At the end of the day, it's not going to drive you toward better self. Even it might just be a detractor from the main focus anyway.
But I think I'm not as religious as you guys would be. Like I do enjoy downtime on a daily basis, right?
Have you met me? I love downtime.
No, but I mean, like, I'll purposefully extend my downtime by an hour because I find that I'm just enjoying it so much.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah, I could be doing
it. I don't either.
I could be doing other things.
No, you could say that about a lot of stuff, though.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we talked about this before on the cast, but we may have talked about it on the side. But being active for the sake of being active, or doing something for the sake of doing something because you have the time to do it, doesn't mean that you should be doing it in that space.
Yeah.
Literally everything in this world needs downtime. That's why we have seasons, right? Like
that's it.
Wow,
even a machine needs to be serviced.
That's a big one. Literally everything needs downtime, and that's why we have seasons. I never thought about that ever.
That's true.
I have these real lucid moments.
That's a proper nugget, Dean.
So don't feel too hard on yourself. If you want to take the rest, take the rest.
It's not rest. It's purposeful procrastination. Because rest is rest, right? And I know when I'm procrastinating.
Why do you? Well, what's the source of the procrastination?
I'm enjoying what I'm doing.
That's not procrastination. Then that's living in the moment.
No,
if you're labeling it as procrastination,
no, look, we could also relabel it differently, right? We could say, listen, you had the things that you wanted to do, but you ended up, I don't know, watching Big Bang or playing a game or, scrolling on TikTok. Actually, now that you mention it, ever since we started this list nonsense that you guys made me do, I am literally like, social media is just not as interesting to me anymore.
You see?
You guys are the
Yeah.
devil, man.
What? Because we removed your social media time?
Yeah,
Wow.
I used to enjoy watching those stupid videos on TikTok. Now it's boring.
Do you know?
It's
Do you
so
know what's
boring.
happening? Is you're getting your dopamine elsewhere.
Yeah, but it's so boring to like every time I go onto TikTok now, I watch like 3 videos and then I either send you one of them or I just like close the app.
That's true. Yeah.
But that's a good thing though.
People have ruined
Social
that shit.
media is an attention exchange, right? You give attention and
For sure.
companies buy that attention.
For sure.
So the fact that you're giving your attention to something else instead of a company is a good thing.
Yeah.
And this is coming from someone in advertising that literally works to purchase attention on these exchanges. Trust me,
Yeah,
giving
you
your
should
attention to
just
something in your own life instead of a company is no bad thing.
you should make a TikTok video of that alone.
I should,
Dean is,
but
ta-
you know,
Dean
well,
is taking us to the dark underworlds of advertising.
I'm trying to help you avoid those.
You could just snippet this part code and then we can make Dean make a video for us.
And then Dean never gets a job in advertising ever again.
We won't put your face there. We'll
Well,
use the anonymous.
Well, Dean,
It's too
we're
late.
working toward something else anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true.
So when you did fulfill the task, how did that make you feel? And if you didn't complete the task, what
This
did that
was
feel like?
bizarre because every time I achieved
Yeah.
something, it was so quickly, what is the next thing? And I like one of the things I said I was going to change was like, it was like a thing within a thing, was that whenever I do stuff, I need to learn to take a moment, recognize that accomplishment, and then put a small reward in place, because I was really screwing up my dopamine production by not rewarding myself for achieving things, right? So there was no reinforcement in the brain. It was just hoy the whole time. So every time I did something, even if I didn't feel like doing something nice for myself, I would then go, right, I'm going to take myself to the movies, or, buy something that I really would like. That's a luxury item. So I'm really into whiskey at the moment. So like not drinking large copious amounts of it and getting smashed,
Liar.
but like buying buying interesting whiskeys, like that have particular flavor profiles, and just having that as something that I do, like where you actually just look for stuff within the whiskey. So like things like that. So like a range of things that I can do for myself that like feel like a reward, just to reinforce the positive thing that I achieved. So that's what I would do when I achieve something. When I didn't achieve something, obviously it doesn't feel good, but the more important thing is to look at why it wasn't achieved, what went wrong in the process, and that level of introspection was all part of, making changes without understanding the impacts of those changes.
I think you mentioned something that I noticed as well, for myself, is that I felt like this rush that I could do. So when I did complete something, I felt this rush that I could tackle the next particular thing, within a different time frame as well.
Yeah,
like, it was like
it's important to maintain.
Superman complex.
Yeah, it's important to maintain the momentum. So just because you do something doesn't mean you must stop there and then and reward yourself. It just means make a note. I need to be rewarded, and when you do that reward, link it back to what you achieved. So a lot of the time, I would kind of just go, okay, cool. What's the next thing, and how quickly can I get onto it? But this weekend, I'm going to the movies. I'm going to get myself a massive popcorn, a big, large grape slush puppy, and a whole lot of Astros. I'm going to dump it in the popcorn, and I'm going to sit there in the dark and eat that.
So good.
Because that's what I enjoy. And so even if I achieve something on the Monday, I would still have the rest of the week. I'm not going Monday night to go watch the movie. I'd go on like the Friday or Saturday, or,
Sure.
or sometimes I'd wait an extra week because the movie I really want to see is coming out the following week. So there's things like that.
Yeah.
So like keep the momentum going, because at that point, when the momentum is in your favor, make use of it.
That's true. How did you keep track of like timelines and targets? So did you create?
I think I said it in when we had the initial pod around this. I said I built it almost like a project plan where, like sprint timings, you have there's things I needed to get done within a 2-week period. There's things I needed to be done by the end of January. So I had stuff that I wanted to do every week, and by the end of that week, it needed to be done. And for the first 2 months, everything was going very, very smoothly. I'd met all of the timings. I was in a very healthy headspace. And I was definitely overconfident to the point where I never considered what the impact of something else might come in with. So starting March, I met all my timings for March, but by the end of it, I was in such a bad headspace that come April, I was just unable to continue with the same momentum, and I had to then try and rectify things.
So I mean, Prash, did you keep any target dates or deadlines or anything like that? I know you mentioned you forgot about the
Hell
list, right? But
no.
I'm just checking.
I'm not a date oriented. Like I can do things by target dates and things like that. And then
Right.
I always set myself up for victory. Um,
Mm.
but I don't like keeping dates because I find that if I'm enjoying doing something, I'll just keep doing it. Um, and for me, a lot of the stuff that I pick on my list is not ending things. It's on non-ending things. So,
Mm-hmm.
as an example, meditation, right? You don't end meditation after a certain point. It's just continuous. If it's a
Right.
course that I wanted to learn, fine, sure. I haven't really hit those, but I think also a bit like Dean, once you finish something that's endable, you look to the next one.
Mm.
But I'm also a bit different. Like I'm a grade A procrastinator. So the minute I finish something, the rest of the day is free, right? And if I finish it at 8 in the morning, I'm like, okay, this is done, right? Other than obviously work related things because you get paid by the hour. But um, if I finish something really important, will not only celebrate, right? I'll go tell other people what I did, right? Uh, because I don't know, when I finish something, I'm just happy about finishing it, you know? Um, if it was hard or whatever it is, and I find that's my reward in a way, you know? And I find it so interesting that, like, do both of you find it difficult to reward yourself?
I do.
Oh, me no.
I do.
Hell no.
I have a problem with that. And I don't know psychologically where it comes from, but and I haven't taken the time to look into it, so that's my fault. But I do have a problem rewarding myself. So I'll do something like very significant in a work sense, and I just won't give it the time of day.
Yeah, but like, look,
Um,
I also do that, right? Like, where someone says, "Yo, you did that really," and I'll be like, "Yeah," and they'll be like, "Well done," and I'll be like, "Okay." But if I think that's more work related stuff, right?
but I mean, the
Yes.
work, that was one example. But like in my personal life, even if I did something significant, I wouldn't really like. I would take a shitload more notice if I didn't do it, rather than, and that was also unhealthy because I wasn't focusing on why it didn't occur. I would just sit and wallow in the misery of not doing something. So it was a bunch of unhealthy things that I was doing from a mental point of view.
Hmm.
But whenever I achieved anything in the personal sense, I still wouldn't celebrate it. I wouldn't give myself the time of day. It would just be, okay, what's next?
Really, I'm always like, "Yo, I can't believe it." Like, even if I don't outwardly project it, inside I'll be like, "Oh yeah, I did that," you know? Yeah, me, I just
That's,
like congratulate myself.
I agree with that. I do that, but externally.
Oh, okay.
Like I vocally say, "Well done, Yash," in an elated fashion for achieving so and so. And you know me, I love shopping.
Yeah.
So like my reward is to take myself out, to go spend my money on something really cool
Oh, okay. Yeah,
for
you see,
myself.
I
And
think,
so
yeah, I don't reward myself monetarily. I reward myself in
yeah.
emotion. So I definitely won't,
Yeah.
yeah, I won't go and buy myself. Like the only thing I bought myself in the last long while, other than the junk you buy off Takealot, obviously, is like a laptop.
Mm.
That's the most thing I spent on in like I think a good 4 years, right? But I'll sit there and be like, yeah, I did that. But I'll do it inside. I won't do it externally.
Yeah, I think I built that both of them, right? So I do it outwardly, but that um that me rewarding myself physically in terms of just going to get something
Yeah.
for myself, it's just an extra set of confirmation or drive to get to the next thing. I think.
Also, it's like a reminder.
So
So
not
when you look
only
around at all the things that you have,
yeah,
you're like, oh, I did that when I bought that, and I did that when I bought that, and
correct,
okay,
yes. At every level that I have ever, I think, achieved within myself, I've got something.
okay, that's
I said it
cool.
before.
I never
Let's
thought
do it
about
this
that.
way. It's I'm not. By the way, I'm not like a person that's particularly interested in physical things. It's just that.
You
Hey,
like the
wow,
process.
you lying, actually.
No, dude.
The amount of stuff you
I'm
buy.
not-
You must be completing a lot of goals for the stuff that you buy, my friend.
Well, maybe he does.
Him and his extraness.
It's those
I
extra
also
goals.
do give a lot
bruh.
of
It
stuff
is those
away as
extra
well.
goals.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, it's not attachment to physical things. It's just
It's the
a
process.
reward system that I've built over time. Yeah, it's just the process that I've built.
Yeah. But that,
I could
Yeah.
just do what Dean does. Buy myself chocolates and cheesecake.
yeah,
as
but you
well.
see, that'll never work for you
Um,
because Dean likes to reward himself with those things.
No, I know exactly, right? And that's what Dean's built for
Yeah.
himself, and I just know that this works for me.
Just want to point out the examples I gave were movies and whiskey, but you also like chocolate and cheesecake.
No, Dean, let's not lie.
I mean,
Dude,
you're not
Dean, if
wrong.
I open your
Yeah,
cupboard
I mean,
now,
you're not
cheesecake,
wrong.
if I open your cupboard now, what's in your cupboard?
Chocolates.
More whiskey or more chocolates? Yeah.
I mean, how much? I mean, the price of one bottle will get you way more chocolates. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but the problem is, if you open your chocolate cupboard, it's
I
overflowing.
can't
So
be
you don't
drinking
have- you
whiskey
can't-
at 10 o'clock in the morning if I did something small. That's just ridiculous, right? But like, if I did my timesheets on time, then I'm gonna have a chocolate. So,
It's cool.
but
that
I
you
hate
guys-
doing my
yeah.
timesheets.
I never thought about the whole reward system. I'm not gonna lie.
Neither did I until so I saw a psychologist for this, a clinical psychologist, about a bunch of things, and he explained the brain chemistry aspect of it all and what the role of dopamine is. And at that point, my mind cracked open. I was like, "Oh my giddy aunt, I've been doing a lot of wrong things." And sometimes your motivation will completely tank because you completely empty your dopamine reserves and you haven't built good reinforcing behavior. So it's important to reward yourself because this process in our brains is in place. So to deliver dopamine upon success so that we continue successful behavior.
I mean, the mechanisms that we use, are just two things, right? Your mechanism could be completely something different.
No. So it's not different, right? There's still a reward system, right? It's just a different mechanism of reward. So
Yeah,
but it's
yes,
the same.
100%.
It's also different with you guys as well. You're
Well, my problem
spending
is I wasn't
something.
doing it at all.
Yeah,
Like there
so-
wasn't
yeah.
a physical or an emotional thing. It would just be
Yeah.
okay, next, which was
But-
very
Yeah.
unhealthy.
But what I think you should do in a group or with like a close person or whatever is tell them what you did, right? And I found that when I tell someone what I did and they say well done, right? When someone else tells you well done, I feel for me that feels like you can tell yourself well done, but you know that you did it, But
Yeah.
when someone else tells you well done, you actually feel like nice inside.
I don't do well with compliments. I know it's another psychological thing I have to look at, but I don't do well with compliments.
Maybe that just works.
It's like a hot
So-
potato. I don't know what to do with it and send it back.
Yeah, I think when I receive compliments, it's so you mentioned it makes you feel good inside. My thing isn't that as well. Sure, I did something good, but I should be the one that's acknowledged that the most.
Sure.
An external person's, I guess, response in something that I did shouldn't have that effect. Shouldn't have a greater effect than I have.
No,
on
100%.
myself for that
You're on the
particular
money,
something.
right? And I also, when someone tells me
Yeah.
well done, I'm like, yeah. But on the inside,
It's like a humbleness,
but on
right?
the inside,
Something
I'm like,
initially
"Oh,
first,
yeah, I did that, and that person was like,
yeah.
um,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a thing for me. It's a nice way for me to get feedback, I suppose.
Is it Could I just want to ask, is it for validation? Do you need that validation?
No, not from that person, not really. But when we say we need validation, yes, it's a form of validation, of course, right? I could do it for myself, right? I could be like you and say, yes, Yash, you did so well, right? Um, but I don't know. I already know that. I
Is it not
already
the
know
same?
it.
Is it not the same? Is it not the same
What if
effect
we
coming from
substituted
you
the
as
word?
coming from someone
What if we
else?
substituted the word for something else, like acknowledgement?
Maybe, but at the end of the day, isn't that still validation?
It's a different space.
Yeah.
You need some people need validation. You don't always need acknowledgement. It's nice to have. It's just
Yeah.
like
Look,
it's a
see, the thing
respect
is,
thing.
yeah,
You know.
no, you're right. But I do get. I need the acknowledgement. I don't need it, but I want it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
You know, recognition is not ever a bad thing. I don't think that that's a bad thing.
Well, technically, at the end of the day, Yash is. I do believe that Yash is right. You should feel more happy within yourself that you did something than any person else that tells you how well you did it. And it comes back to that whole thing of, your happiness is controlled by yourself, right?
No, that's all
Um,
true. But you
yeah,
shouldn't also be in a space where you're not recognized or appreciated or
sure,
acknowledged.
sure, yes. And I think
That's
that's
not a
more.
healthy.
Yeah,
That's
That's.
not a
there's
healthy
that
I
as
think
space.
well.
that's more
Yeah.
where it comes from.
Mm. Okay, understood.
I hope that's more where it comes from. And me not showing off.
I mean,
Me not
you
just showing off what I did.
dude. I mean, why shouldn't you feel proud of the things that you accomplish or things that you get
Yeah,
done and
but
do?
feeling proud and showing off is two different things.
Yeah, I don't. I, look, from the years I've known you, I don't think it's coming from a place of vanity, but
Yeah.
I feel like it's more
You know
just
me, right? You know me.
yeah, like I feel like you're doing it for what I mentioned, and that's you like being in a place where you're acknowledged
So the
and
way I see it is
appreciated.
I think the best way I can explain it now that I've thought about it is when I do something I enjoy, I want to share that joy with somebody else, even if they haven't been a part of it at all.
Oh yeah, that's nice. You're
You
sharing your
see
life.
that makes sense. Yes, yes, yes. Cool.
Because,
I identify
but
with that.
now that you say that, you're sharing your life, I think I've always been like that. Like I'm a bit of an oversharer sometimes.
I'm okay with it.
Not everybody is though, right?
Yeah, but
Yeah. Some people get uncomfortable with
That's why I only have
oversharing
so many
situations.
friends, because all of you actually
exactly.
listen to my nonsense.
Oh man. Well, now that the first half of the year is over, I guess, how would you rate your first half? If you had to give yourself a rating, let's just say out of 5, what would you rate yourself?
Can we just before we do this rating story, um,
Mm.
there's a lot of stuff that I did that wasn't on my list,
Ooh, interesting. Elaborate.
right? So, like I was telling you earlier about that whole happiness thing,
Yeah.
I'm just
Mm.
finding that I've been focusing so much more on just being in a happy state the whole time and a joyous state as often
Mm-hmm.
as I can. Obviously, I still get angry at certain things and swear a lot and whatever it is. But when I remember or I'm aware, and I try to be aware as often as possible, um,
Mhm.
and I learned something today as well. I'll tell you now. But when I'm aware as often as I am, I try to get in my awareness state, try to get to a place of happiness and joy, and that I think eclipses everything on my list so far. Well, except for the one area, but it eclipses everything else
Yes,
on my
yes.
list because I feel like from that point, all the stuff on my list, whether I complete it or not, I will still work towards them in comfort and in happiness. And I think that for me was literally, if I only did that for the last 6 months, I feel like it's a win.
I think it's also quite important that you mention that because if you focus on your happiness, um, you'll kind of notice that a lot of other things as well fall in place.
Yeah.
Much to your earlier points when you mentioned that you consciously wake up every day and remind yourself with that particular saying in the morning, that your happiness is you're in charge of it and it's your choice. and every moment and with everything that you do stems from your
Yes.
happiness. And if it stems from a place of joy, and if it stems from a place of I don't know, deep elation, then no matter what thing it is you're working on will always be successful and always be or end up creating more happiness for you.
I agree mostly, except for always being successful, because you can also fail at things. But in your failure, you're also still happy, right?
Yeah.
Because I'd like I like for a listener, I don't want to create this false sense of success, right? You fail at a lot of things as well, but you can also be happy about the
Oh
fact
yeah.
that you failed, right? Like
Mm.
like if you learned something, that I think is the beneficial aspect, and then you look at the positive side of it. It's not always about being positive, because sometimes it can be negative, and you it's not about outward happiness either. You can't always be happy, right? I'll still have resting bitch
I mean,
face.
we talked about toxic
Yeah, I'll
positivity
still
as well.
have resting bitch face all the time, even though I'm happy all the time. But it's important to understand that when you become aware of your current state, you can choose to be happy, or you can choose to worry about something. And worry doesn't solve it, but actively focusing on the happy and then trying to deal with the problem makes you just a little bit more calmer, I think. And I sort of learned something today, or I heard something today that also like clicked a little bit in my head. Your emotions are just another sense that you own, right? And I was like, I couldn't understand what
That's
this
very
person was
nice.
saying, right? And then until I realized that your emotions are technically just a pointer, right? It's a pointer to the way that you're feeling right now. And if your emotional state is negative, right, it's pointing to you that it's like a sense. It's like if you look at something with your eyes, you see it, right? But you can't hear it, taste it, touch it, right?
Yeah.
Now, your emotions are an internal thing, but it's still a sense. It's telling you what's happening on the inside, whereas all your other senses are telling you what's happening on the outside, right? And when you use your emotions as an internal sense, it tells you your current state and allows you or gives you the opportunity to change your current state mentally, right? And that
It's
just
very
blew
true.
my mind today. And I was like, what?
I like that. You own your emotions.
Correct.
It's very nice.
You certainly do. I mean, remember, if you recall an earlier podcast when we talked about state changes and how we actually navigate our emotions, and how happiness is a choice and certain things is a choice. And for example, like some of the triggers that we used, we discussed those in the earlier podcasts, like physical cues, as well as emotional cues. It's 100% exactly what you mentioned as well. It's internal, and you got to figure out what space you're in at that point in time, and then make the conscious choice to move to a better space.
Yeah. It's difficult because you have to not always be aware, but you have to, when you remember to be aware, then you can do like a self check-in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Good point, man. About the happiness, that where it stems from, and what drives
Yeah,
you
that
to
shit
do
just blew my mind
do
today.
things that you kind of love. Yep. So what's the plans for the 6 months? Next 6 months?
Wait, we didn't give ourselves a rating.
Okay, we can ask that one
Okay.
last. So now that you know what you know now, what's next for the next few months? Is it continuation of what you or building upon the successes that you currently have? Is it reworking or restructuring plans? Is it reducing the number of plans that you have, or refocusing or attention in some plans, but removing others? What does that look like? What does that journey look like for you?
So
Go for it.
oh, carry on. Go for
No,
it.
go for it. Go for it. I have one sentence.
Oh, okay, then go for it. I don't have one sentence.
Everything that Yash just said, all of the above.
So Yash, when he's asking,
Okay.
"Are you gonna do this? Are you gonna do this?" Your answer is yes.
Yes. My answer
Yes.
It's like that meme.
Yes.
Yes. My answer is yes.
I like that.
Okay, cool. I get you. No, I get you. I totally get it.
So yeah, mine is just so the goals haven't changed. Still, those goals are the same. It's more a case of just a more mindful way of approaching how to go about reaching those goals. So definitely some restructuring gone on, some adjustment of timelines, and then just looking for ways to get through the thorn bush without running through it naked.
Hurting yourself. Okay, I mean that's quite reasonable, right? I mean, over time, you as Prash mentioned, as you mentioned as well, Dean, like things change. You need to refocus. You need to restructure, remove things as well. So that's expected. Not everything is going to work out the way it was planned to begin with, right? I mean, they say the best laid plans never really work out. But I guess that's why I wanted to do this podcast, right? I mean, it's kind of just to show that we also have struggles, on even in our structured.
He fails spectacularly sometimes.
It's like I remember Top Gear, when Jeremy Clarkson always used to say ambitious but rubbish.
Yeah. Same WhatsApp group.
And some of our plans are quite ambitious and rubbish toward the end. If I look at my own particular list as well, underestimating or overestimating my skills and my emotional range and stuff like that as well in some of them. But yeah, so to get to the crux of it, because remember, I did promise if things went well for all of you, I'd take you all out to Hooters. So
You
what
did?
would you honestly rate yourself?
I don't
promised
remember
that.
this.
I did.
I give
Really?
myself a 1.
Okay, well. Okay, cool. And you, Dean?
Emotionally, it feels like a 3.5 out of 10 / maybe 4. But if I had to look at it from a logical point of view, it's closer to like a 5.5, 6.
Nice.
That's pretty good, dude. That's pretty good.
It doesn't feel that way.
Is that it a 1 out of 5 or is it a 1 out of 10?
Oh, because he's the 1
out of 1.
No, look, I definitely feel in some aspects I've done very well. I haven't hit the targets that I said I have, but I'm very happy with the state in some aspects. Like my food, my physical fitness has changed.
Well, there's mass progress
Right.
in other areas.
And then in some areas I've completely shut the bed, right? But also in some areas I've also realized that when it's goal setting, you have to set the goals for stuff that you can do and not just for like peripheral items in your life. Like house and car. House and car is not a goal, right? It's a byproduct.
Sure.
But like I had it on my list and I'm looking at that's why I said all of the above, because some of the things on this list just need to go in the bin, right? It's a thing that you want, right? But it's not a personal goal, right? And I think I'm also learning about this whole list thing because like you guys have been doing this for a while, right? And I'm it's not that I didn't have things I wanted to do before, because I've done things my whole life, right? But I wasn't just a dodo until now. But I've done things based on where I saw I could benefit. Whereas now I'm thinking about all the things that I can do. And I would say from an emotional state, I'm 5 out of 5, right? The things on my list is probably like a 1 out of 5, right?
Okay.
Because I did forget to look at my list as well. But overall, I'd say.
But that's not to say you were stagnant. By the way, listeners, it's not to say that he was stagnant. He was progressing.
Yes, but on my own path, right? I think definitely need maybe code just once a month. Tell me to look at my list. Or set a reminder or something.
Actually, that should be something we all do. Like we just send each other messages like, "How's your list going this month?" Or just go look at the list.
That's cool. I like that.
Yeah, I think that's cool. We hold each other accountable. Because what I didn't ask is like, I think this was a question on my list here as well. Like, what's the accountability structure for yourself?
Yeah, there isn't.
Like, how do you hold yourself accountable? If you miss
No,
something,
but Dean definitely holds himself accountable, right?
Yeah, Dean makes himself feel bad.
Lamb-based myself. That's not healthy, people. Don't do that. Don't be like me.
No, it's
Well, look, some level of it is important, right? You should feel bad about something that you've wanted to do but haven't done. Like, I do feel bad about some of the things that I haven't done. Like, on a
same. Yeah.
spiritual level, I definitely haven't hit my target, and I'm upset about myself. I'm upset with myself that I didn't, right?
Mhm.
But in some aspects, like fun, and I literally wrote, I play Dota once or twice a month on a Friday evening. I haven't done that, but I'm totally fine with it because it is a bit of a time waster, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's two sides of it. So I definitely think that while Dean lambasts himself, um, you should have some degree of accountability. Not to say that you
Well,
should make
I'm trying
yourself
to
feel
change
bad.
that.
No,
So yeah, like what I
no,
hold
but
myself,
it's
the
important.
accountable thing
Yeah.
is, like if I fail at something, I go, okay, it doesn't feel good at all. But instead of shitting on myself for it, the accountability comes in that I'm accountable for understanding where it went wrong and changing that process. So
Yeah.
that's how I hold myself accountable. Is I make sure that I understand what broke in that process and how to fix it.
Yeah. No, but that's
I think that's a responsible
yeah,
way of doing it
100%.
as well.
Yeah, it doesn't
Yes.
feel as cuck
Yeah.
as well, so that's nice.
Yeah. But yes, you do that too. I mean, I remember you were telling us in one of the podcasts, whenever you find yourself in a
Yeah.
bad situation, you do magic and you click your fingers and all of
Yeah. No, literally click my
right.
fingers.
Anthony Robbins' wife said that, right? And
Yeah.
you teach yourself not to do the wrong thing again. Um, and it's a similar form, but yeah, it's important to do. I like to burn myself a few times before I learn the lesson.
The fire is so pretty, though.
But that's how I think that's how we learn, right, as humans. So that's the
Well,
way
you
we
should
learn
learn
through
once,
experience,
not like
actually
me.
doing it. No, but well, there are situations that I can describe where we've put ourselves in bad situations often. Love being one of them, for example.
You know what?
Heartbreak.
I'm of the opinion that whatever you've been through, you went through for a reason. It made you a better person.
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
I'm trying to look at some of
Would
the
never
shit
doubt that for a second.
situations and try to reframe it in my mind mentally to say it was a good thing.
Oh, dude.
It is always a good thing. I mean, it's led you to this
Lessons
path
of
now,
love.
dude, so.
Hey, some of those things you have to make that same mistake a good few times before you realize this is the bad idea.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, can be very
Well,
stubborn about learning those lessons.
We'll still put ourselves in those situations.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're better equipped now.
Well, we think we
No, we definitely are. I know we are. Like, I'd like to think I'm not going to make the same mistake again.
Look at Taylor Swift, Brian. Look at like 7 albums later.
You know what? When your mistakes make you billions, then it's okay. Go make those mistakes. You go make those mistakes.
You
Every
need to
mistake
make
is a
some
check.
$1 billion mistakes. That's what you need to do.
That's it, fam.
You can make $1 billion. They can cost you $1 billion. I need mistakes that make me $1 billion.
Okay, you need to
Jeez.
make $1 billion turnarounds.
Yes, sir.
Hey, dude, that's the
Yeah.
goal. I think that was one of the goals that I had as well. Well, not $1 billion.
You might be crying, but you're crying all the way to the bank.
Wiping your face with cash.
Yeah, exactly.
Hunt those $200
Like,
bills.
I'm so sad. I'll cry about it in my Ferrari.
On my $100 bill.
No, but it's. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like I think there's that saying with this that someone said this. I can't remember. I think it was Les Brown or someone. You know, being rich doesn't solve your problems, but at least you can arrive at them in style. You know.
Yeah. Did he say that?
I really like that.
Yeah.
Being rich means you just have a different level of problems. Your problems are further up the pyramid, you know?
Well, technically, you could be rich and still have love-related problems, right?
Yeah, but you're not worried about putting a roof over your head. You know?
100%.
Like my house in Waterfall, I'm sad and depressed, but I'm in Waterfall and there's a Aston Martin in my garage. You know, I got different kind of problems. It's not to say that, you know, one problem is worse than the other. It's just, you know, like if I'm gonna have problems, I'd rather have rich people problems.
You'd rather not be sad and stuff, and then also not have the acid not in the garage.
Yeah, so, like we're very fortunate in many ways.
Yeah,
Gotta
for
appreciate
sure.
those things as well.
Definitely.
Always.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's all I had for this particular session. I mean, I thought it was going to be short, but it didn't turn out to
Your
be.
questions
actually.
aren't easy.
Those questions aren't easy.
Code lied to us.
You don't ask
He's like,
easy
no,
questions.
it's gonna be
You don't
quick.
say. You
Hour
could
and a
just
half later.
you could just say in one word, right? Did you meet your list or not? Right? And we both
And we
say
could have
no,
said no.
right? And then
It'd be
you
done.
say you don't go to Hooters, and then you could have ended the podcast.
I didn't know about this Hooters thing. I feel like he just made it up.
No, if you listen to the previous podcast,
Listen
So do
to
we
the
get
last-
KFC?
If you listen
Instead.
to the last MS Teams recording.
Okay, so no Hooters, but what about KFC? Do we get that instead?
So wait, we're not getting
Chicken
Hooters. What's
licken.
going on?
I don't know. Like,
you rated yourself a 1. He rated himself like a medium
So wait,
range.
okay, hold on. What?
Good
was your
rated himself
rating
1
for-
out of 1.
No, you know what? This one didn't give us his rating.
oh yeah, what was your rating?
It's not about me. It's about you.
Don't come with that nonsense.
It's
What
3
about your
wise
rating?
potatoes, not 2 wise
Not
potatoes.
two. Well, yeah, and one.
and
It's
one
not about
question
me,
up.
potato.
Yeah.
What's your rating, Captain?
Okay, so in terms of goals and tasks, or goals or tasks, it was 3 out of 5 that I particularly achieved for 5 months out of the year. 2 were emotional ones that I'm still working on, so I didn't achieve those 2, which I needed to. So that's me, 3 out of 5.
So
Pretty
nobody's
average.
going to Hooters.
No, we have to take ourselves to Hooters.
No, we still, and then my the agreement was regardless of whether it was the outcome, it was still going to
We're going to
be
Hooters.
Wait. We get to go to Hooters even if we fail dismally.
Yeah, so that we can
Yes,
we can
It's a
celebrate.
great deal.
Remember,
We can recover from our losses.
So when we going to Hooters?
Yeah, that's to be
Because
determined.
there's some boneless
we have
wings
a lot
and
of things
sliders.
to do.
Call him a name.
Well,
Yeah,
if
I'm
someone
sure.
who listens to our podcast shows up because we told them the date that we're going to, I'm pretty sure we wouldn't let them not sit at our table.
Our 5 listeners in Texas are not gonna make a trip. They're gonna go to their own Hooters.
Yeah. Probably not going to Hooters.
But that's it. I mean, yeah. So I will be. Probably, obviously, not this weekend.
No.
'Cause-
Hopefully not next weekend either.
Could make it a midweek thing.
No, hell no. I can't
That
drink
could-
midweek.
You can. We'll show you.
Oh my god.
You
I was
can't
going
drink
there
midweek
again.
and then make it to work the next day.
You can. We'll show you. We used to do it all the time in Douglasdale. What are you
Yeah,
talking
we
about?
used to, Dean. We're not that young anymore.
I did actually mention that I should go back to that. Like things that worked in the past won't work now.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so early August then, right?
Yeah. Well, okay. We going. Okay. Anyway, let's finish this off, and then we'll discuss this.
Hey, look, if a bunch of people show
Um,
up that day, then at least we know our podcast is reaching people.
Yeah.
A bunch of people are going to show up. We just know them. That's the difference.
Yes,
True.
yes.
Yeah.
All right, listeners, that's all we have time for this evening. Thank you once again for joining. We appreciate your
Email.
listenership, and we hope you have an amazing week ahead. So, from us, the Three Wise Potatoes, this is signing out.
Bye.
And we're out.